your back gave out. You're halfway through a job that clearly needs two people. And instead of picking up the phone, you spend 4 minutes calculating whether you can finish it alone. You can't, but you'll try anyway. And the worst part, you won't even register this as unusual. This is just Tuesday for you. This isn't stubbornness. Well, it's partly stubbornness, but the full picture is more uncomfortable than most people want to sit with for very long. There's a specific kind of person who learned early that the most reliable way to get something done is to do it themselves. Not because the people around them were cruel. More often it's because at some point they reached for help and the help didn't quite reach back. Maybe it was small. A parent too stretched to notice. A household where needing things felt like adding weight to an already heavy pile. A moment where asking would have made everything harder. And somehow, even as a kid, they registered that. They adapted. They became the one who figured it out. And adaptations don't dissolve when the original condition changes. They harden. They become the shape of you. So now you're in your 30s or 40s, and you are demonstrably good at solving problems. You've earned that, but your identity, the quiet internal story you run about who you are, is built on a foundation of not needing to call anyone. Asking for help doesn't just feel inconvenient inside that story. It feels like a crack in the foundation. Here's what most conversations about this completely miss. People who handle everything alone don't resist asking for help because they think they're more capable than everyone around them. The resistance comes from somewhere much less flattering and much more human than ego. Asking requires sitting for a moment in the experience of not knowing, of visibly being the one who can't. And that specific experience is the one they spent years conditioning themselves to move past as fast as possible. The discomfort of that moment isn't just uncomfortable, it's almost allergic, a physical flinch. There's research behind this. A 2008 study found that people consistently underestimate how willing others are to help them. Participants predicted far lower rates of compliance than actually occurred. The world was significantly more willing than people assumed. So the problem wasn't availability, it was the internal cost of asking. People weren't accurately calculating whether others would help. They were weighing what it would mean about them to need it. And that judgment kept returning an answer they couldn't accept. There's also a layer underneath all of that, one that takes the most honesty to look at. A lot of these people believe somewhere quiet and unspoken that needing help is a burden, that showing up with a visible problem is taking something from someone. This didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of being the person other people leaned on, until leaning felt like a privilege that belonged to other people, not them. The most painful part of all of this? These people are almost always extraordinary at helping others. They show up with tools, literal and otherwise. They would never, not once, make someone feel like a burden for asking. They'd be genuinely offended if you suggested they would. And yet they are completely, stubbornly, sincerely convinced that they would be. The solution isn't learning to just ask for help. That advice is about as useful as telling someone with a fear of heights to simply look down and relax. The real shift is slower and stranger than a piece of advice can carry. It involves genuinely updating the internal story about what asking means, not performing vulnerability like a skill you've recently acquired, actually considering the possibility, which will feel genuinely foreign, that needing something doesn't dismantle you. The people in your life aren't only there to receive what you can give them. The drawer full of tools is still yours. None of that stops being real. You can still be the person who fixes things. You're just also allowed to hand someone else the wrench occasionally.